Okay. So, continuing on from the last video where I'm speaking about how many intellectuals these days have noticed a drastic decline in the intelligence levels of the masses. Intelligence levels of the governing institutions. And then when we look at the complete farce which went on since spring 2019, all that stuff is still going on today. There's many people now that are trying to take governments to task about all of the things that they can be brought to task for. They are slipping and sliding and doing everything in their power to avoid being brought to task. And this is why, people, these wars are always being perpetrated. There is always some war which comes about at the optimum time, just when things are going to hit the fan, like at the end of the COVID thing. Well, at that particular time, all information was coming out and lots of stuff was going to be very detrimental to the government. And so what happened? Oh, lo and behold, Ukraine happened. And then when people get bored of the Ukraine and then they start investigating, they've got time to think about other things, then, oh, what happened now? You've got this business with Israel and Palestine. And they've always used these tactics as a major distraction for the masses. And then, of course, the tabloids direct the attention away from the things that the government don't want you to know about. And because but not only the governments, it's the powers that be that rule the globe, because they own all the media companies, of course. And so they just keep shape-shifted. So if anybody has any idea about what's going on in the world, the first port of call, of course, is to look at what we would consider to be manipulation, deception, beguilement, and political machinations. They've become so patently obvious these days that even the most mundane of the world's populace are starting to have something to say about it. They are, oh dear me, dear God in heaven, where's my third hand? And so, when we look now at the polls, for instance, in relation to what went on for the past 3 years, we can see that the mainstream media even are starting to question. Now, I wouldn't say the mainstream, not the main body of the media, because they're all owned, but certainly independent media. Lots of independent medias. They're getting quite a bit of airtime, and they are being viewed by people who wouldn't have entertained them during the recent crisis. So people's minds are starting to turn. And the greatest concern now of the world's leaders is how far can they attempt to beguile us again? Could they, in the not too distant future, ever try to lock us down again? Ever try to pull that wool over our eyes? Because even what was speculated from the very get-go is now becoming very prolific with many media companies. And the people that were sounding the alarm bells then are still sounding the alarm bells now. Only now they have the proof of what they were speculating would happen. And how does the proof come about? The proof comes about with the amount of illness, deaths related to not the thing, but related to the antidote of the thing, which appears to be what so-called conspiracy theorists were saying it was all along. And that is something to reduce world population and increase global control of the gazillionaires. Because what they are trying to do now, i.e. the World Economic Forum, they're trying to supersede each and every government. And our King Charles, he has a great deal of influence via the World Economic Forum. And what he is saying is that most certainly, as far as he's concerned, the World Economic Forum's policies are going to supersede British government. And he is saying that what the World Economic Forum is heading towards should supersede all governments on the globe. And so these trillionaires that have their own idea of how the world should be seem to be getting on quite well, but there are often very, very sticky obstacles which throw a spanner in the works of their plot and plan. And one of those things is that these electric cars, they are self-combusting. The batteries, their batteries are dying. They are vastly less efficient than diesel or gasoline, and the confidence is waning rapidly with them. And so I don't know whether their technology is going to vastly increase in relation to the battery life of these electric cars and buses and lorries, like it did with the mobile phones. Those of you who are old enough to remember when they first came out, it was an absolute nightmare with the batteries dying all the time. But they managed to overcome that in a very short period of time. And so if they can do the same with the bigger batteries, or even if indeed they introduce a new technology, there's lots of technology that they can introduce that they don't want us to know about. And so anyway, that's all, I suppose, going to come out in the wash. And so finally, what I will say is, in my last ranting video, I was speaking about the biblical story of the Garden of Eden, and I was applying a rational application to it. And I said that the title was an IQ test for my viewers. Well, my viewers failed miserably because nobody has a philosophical or psychological perspective on that subject. Now, of course, they were the typical Bible-thumping American Bible Belt inbreds that won't accept any questioning of the Bible. And so, of course, you know, I've always had to contend with those. And but other than that, there was no psychoanalysts out there, no psychologists, no philosophers. In all the people that watched my videos, not a single one had anything reasonable, rational or significant to say on that subject. And that in itself is shocking. People just don't know anything these days. They don't know anything. They don't have an interest in psychology or philosophy or knowledge in general. The height of anyone's acquisition or seeking for knowledge is on YouTube, floating through all these YouTube videos, which are all well and good because it gives you an introduction to what's out there. But if you can't evolve from that, then you'll never ever be able to put the pieces together. You know, that's just one facet. And if any of you have read my book, you may remember, chance I wouldn't have, that there has to be a whole bunch more arrows to our quiver if we're going to put the pieces together. And so, just like Ian McGilchrist has done in his book, I've done a similar thing, only nothing like to the extent that he's done his, because his book took him 10 years of the deepest of research. And, you know, he links down in the bibliography all the sources where he's got his information from. I can't be bothered to do that. I'll never get involved with that level because I'm not sufficiently interested to prove to you what I'm saying has any veracity. You have to intuit that. And that is something that Gilchrist doesn't entertain. He doesn't get too involved with the intuition facet of knowledge, because being a so-called scientist, then that just wouldn't stand up, and his book wouldn't give him the acclaim that he's looking for with the scientific fraternity. So that's why he has to quote other scientists to even remotely get into the ballpark where his hypothesis is going to be taken seriously. Me, on the other hand, I don't care how serious people take my musings, because at the end of the day, my musings are predominantly a subjective experience, and there is nothing that I can prove to anybody. And so the only thing that I would make relation to referencing, I reference scripture, I reference various ideologies, I reference philosophy, psychoanalysts, philosophers and this sort of thing, loosely speaking. I'm not quoting them directly, I'm not including them in the bibliography. And so anyone that's going to be reading my book, they're going to need to have some level of spiritual experience. They're going to be reasonably endowed in what it is to be a philosopher, and they're going to have quite a substantial knowledge of human psychology. And then on top of that, if you've got meditation experiences or supernatural experiences, entheogen experiences, all this sort of thing, then they're going to be a major bonus to you. But as per these Christians that contest what I'm saying about the nature of God, they don't have any of that. They have absolutely nothing. They don't even have the intelligence to be able to see that the Bible is a complete conglomerate of fantasy and contradiction. And so you can go no further. And so if anybody ever levels at me, oh, he's deleting comments, well, I'm going to delete any comments that just don't make any sense and aren't going anywhere. I'll always give the benefit of the doubt to people that can always have a go at me and they can contest what I'm saying if they've got a decent hypothesis of their own. If not, if all it is just shite, then I'm just throwing him in the snake pit. And that's it. I just don't have the time, inclination or energy to waste on fools. And so, anyway, I took a few days off. I don't want to upload this video because it takes away, this doesn't take anything away because this is time which I'm filling, because you know, I have to go to the supermarket, so whilst I'm walking 20 minutes either way, I may as well fill that time with something which might be positive to at least one other person. And so I'll do that, and it's no big deal. But then of course when I get home and I upload them, and invariably I'll watch the videos back, and then I'll be looking for any stupid comments, you know, and just going, oh my god, why do I bother? You know, that's the tedious part of it. And so I've even considered that I'll just take the comments down, because there's very seldom any point in them being there. Anyway, I think that will do us for today, and we'll see what comes of the channel.